Hello and welcome to another episode of the Simon and Friends podcast. I'm Simon Short. Joining me this week is Ben Parker. Ben, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Hello again, everybody.
All right, we are trying out some technology things. This is on YouTube. Once again, this is our second episode of the season on YouTube. So thank you all so much for being here. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, yada yada, all that. If you are an A1 listener on the audio podcast, welcome back in. It is time to restart our draft process, Ben. We have been doing this together now. This is our fourth draft. This all started with you coming on the Simon Short podcast to tell me about the 2022 NFL draft prospect quarterbacks ahead of Pittsburgh Steelers selecting a quarterback. I was famously a Desmond Ridder guy. You were famously a Kenny Pickett guy. It doubly didn't work out for me because one of them ended up on my team, but neither of our draft takes took. There was no real quarterback from that. We didn't really miss. We weren't grinding the Brock Purdy tape at that time. Maybe we'll find that guy this year. Um, and although I've taken a much deeper dive into the draft since then, this week's show is of the same vein. And it's the same one we did last year. Ben is here to help me help you all, listeners and viewers, have a little context on the top quarterbacks for the 2026 NFL draft. Ben is approaching this from not only a NFL draft expert, but a college football expert, me, just NFL draft guy. So I watch the film, Ben watches the film, plus the college football season. The goal is for you guys to have an understanding and at least a know-how of the quarterbacks that we're thinking about for the 26 draft ahead of the 2025 season being played. So when your team is 0-4 in the NFL in a few weeks and you're starting to think about quarterbacks and you look at mock drafts, maybe you at least heard us talk about the guys at the top so you have a little bit of context. Or if you are a college football fan, but you just like turn it on in September and you roll, these are the guys that draftniks are looking at and talking about and being picks in the 2026 class. Um, Ben, without further ado, we have stuff that we'll get into at the end, but let's save that for right now. Again, real quick, just before we start, Simon and Friends podcast. Thank you all so much for being here, part of Box Score Network, and these are all the pods as well, part of Box Score Network. Tons of NFL coverage coming your way because CONCACAF still getting you on the soccer though. So without further ado, Ben, let's talk about our first quarterback, and it's Cade Klubnik. I'm going to give a little bio for each of these guys. Ben's going to hit you with his notes. I'll hit you with what I watched on film. Then we'll show you guys a couple clips that stuck out to me. So Klubnik is a 6'2", 210-pound senior quarterback at a Clemson. He comes from Westlake High School in Austin, Texas. He's the two-year starter going into year three as the signal caller for Clemson. 247 had him as a five-star, second overall quarterback, third overall player out of Texas, and 13th player in the nation in the 2022 class. Last year, as a junior, he had a breakout year of 36 touchdowns, six interceptions, and over 3,600 yards passing. Those six interceptions and the 1.2 interception percentage last year were the best among all quarterbacks with at least 30 touchdowns thrown in college football. Ben, Cade Klubnik, what are some of your thoughts? What are your strengths, weaknesses, notes on the Clemson signal caller?
I really, really like Cade Klubnik. At the moment, he's my favorite quarterback that we're looking at. Okay. Now, I don't expect that to stay the same because there's guys who physically have more things to offer, but those guys haven't shown enough production yet. They just haven't shown enough, with it yet. And Klubnik has. So that's why I've got Klubnik currently at number one. I don't expect him to stay there, but listen, I love the deep ball that he throws. He does not have like a pure cannon of an arm. He's not a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes level, that elite level, but he's got an arm that is very big, that is very accurate deep. And listen, I know he's got a good set of receivers. Okay. I get that, but very accurate deep. Love the deep ball. Matter of fact, out of all the guys I've watched, and we've been watching them all summer, I love his deep ball the best. He's the most accurate, the most frequent, and he's hitting guys downfield. It's 40, 50-yard bombs he's throwing. He's not hitting people at 60 over the back shoulder, right? But he's giving these receivers a chance to catch. So I love the deep ball. I love his running too. Okay, those are the two big things. His running, boy, he can scoot, especially when it's straight line. I don't know that he's got shake and bake moves out the wazoo, but boy, when you give him a crease, he's gone, and he can take it to the house too for a touchdown. Like it's not just picking up first downs; he can carry these for touchdowns. All right. So again, that's against ACC competition usually. Maybe he wouldn't quite be doing that against SEC competition, but those are the two big things I like. I'll get into the weaknesses here in just a second. But this guy is going to have a blast of a season. He is just going to blow up offensively again this year. And I really like him for the NFL draft. Again, I don't know that he's number one overall type material. We'll get into some things I don't like quite as much that might pull him back off of that. But I really do like him. And if I were an NFL team, I'd be looking at him seriously as my quarterback.
Yeah, I really like Klubnik. I was a little worried, kind of going into it, what he might look like, but I think the arm talent is there. I wrote good arm talent. He can make throws with zip on a line with some air under him. He can really vary his pitches, which is really, really nice. Something you're really looking for. Different from a couple of these other guys we're going to talk about tonight. He has nice pocket mobility for the most part. He wants to and does step up in the pocket more than the fade back, and he can escape when necessary, but I think out of all these guys, so out of I think we're talking about 10 quarterbacks tonight, 5 of them to 6 of them real more deep film dives on. But out of all these guys that I watch, he's the best at maneuvering in the pocket. And that's grown to be such an important skill for me watching guys in the NFL. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that Kenny Pickett was the quarterback my team took in 2022 when I really started paying attention to this, and he was terrible at it. But yeah, so I think he's the best at moving in the pocket. And even when he gets out of the pocket, he's still looking to make a pass, as well as be able to run. So I really like that. And then I watched the Georgia game from last year on Klubnik, and Georgia turned up the pressure about midway through the game, and there was more inconsistency on that accuracy as it happened. And he was a little less comfortable in the pocket, so you can speed him up a little bit. But I do think overall, just manages the game well, and even within the confines of that pressure coming up. I just did the Tom Brady big P on capital P on the pressure. Um, like still played within the game, right? So like he was sped up a little bit, but he didn't start doing stuff outside of his ability. You could just tell it boxed him in a little bit. But I think that arm talent was good overall. Let me go ahead. I played these clips a little bit while you were talking. I couldn't resist testing this out. But here we have him in shotgun, and this is just a classic, like, okay, couple step drop back off the back foot, just on a rope 40 yards, a little bit of air under it. This one, a little bit more on a line on this deep ball to the outside on the sideline. And then this play here, he has a nice zip, real hard zip to the sideline on an outbreaking route there, about 20 yards on that one, a little bit more than that. So the arm talent of varying kind of speeds is really, really good that he can already do that. Here's a play where he's getting that pocket collapsed on him from the D tackle on that center 53. And he does a nice little move there to fake the edge rusher. I actually want to try to play that one again. He fakes to the outside of Blake Miller, the right tackle here, a guy we'll talk about in a couple weeks. He fakes to the outside to get the edge rusher to bite, and then he cuts back inside so he can try and make another play. So from here, we've got Klubnik. He's motioning his guy over, gets the ball out. Oh, he has to bail. He goes to the right, he goes to the inside, and then he comes back to the right so he can make that throw. Really good pocket maneuverability against that Georgia defensive line. And then here we have another play where he's going to make a play on the run. Snaps the ball, looks left, doesn't see it, pockets collapsing. He gets out to the right. He points. He's extending the play. He's telling that tight end, "Hey, go up, break out of your route, go up, because I'm going to hit you." And then here on this play, up and out of the pocket, out to the right, fading ball doesn't get completed, but he does end up making a play there. So creativity, under control pocket mobility, and that ability to vary the arm talent, and use different pitches, throw to different parts of the field, were things that stuck out for me on Klubnik. Ben, anything else for you in response to any of that, or just kind of what I want to know from you for each guy is going into the 2025 season, coming from the 2024 college football season, what thing are you looking for to help raise the stock of these guys when you're looking at them for the draft?
I'll get to the stock thing in a minute here on Klubnik, but yeah, there's several things. This is the guy we're talking about, okay? Very much so, for several different reasons. Got to stress though, the arm strength is the thing that I really look at. If I want a franchise quarterback, listen, I just don't want a guy who's going to be accurate at 15 yards, man. That's not my 10-year plan. Okay. I could survive that for a year or two. I don't want that for my franchise QB. So I really want the arm strength to be there. It's there. Okay. And again, it's not the elite level, but you and I have already talked about it. The arm strength is there with zip on it, with air under it to long portions of the field. Really like that. That's really important. That's why I really do like him. That's why I've got him way up there on my list right now. size is an issue. And by size, I mean height. Okay. He's listed 6'2". Sometimes I'm not even quite sure he's that tall. We'll find out.
Hmm.
But that's
Hmm.
that's more of a limiting factor than it is a real hindrance to his game. Where I do see it show up at, there are quite a few times throughout the season that I saw he would either get a batted ball or he would shoot a little too high at guys coming across the middle. So that was the two times. And again, that's a height thing. That's a thing where he can't quite see over or he just can't reach over. So that is an issue, but that doesn't mean he can't be brilliant. Think of Drew Brees, right? Drew Brees had a height
Hmm.
problem.
Oh yeah,
Brees will
tippy
be headed to
toes.
the Hall of Fame. So there are ways to get around it. You hit the windows, you move around a little bit, you study film more than anybody else studies it, right? There are ways around that. He's going to be brilliant though in college this year. I don't know that there's anything he can really do this year to change my mind about what he is. My biggest question is, are other more talented guys going to pass him? That's the question. I think I already feel like I know what he is. This offense is loaded for Clemson this year. So again, the height thing is the one big concern, and that really was the where I saw it at, because I did see it consistently. And I will say for the Georgia game, that probably was his worst game on film. And I know that was Clemson's worst game last year because it was the first game of the season. They were kind of breaking in a lot of new young people, and Georgia comes to play, buddy. I mean, so first game of the year, Georgia just crushed them. I mean, just kind of threw them around, especially in the second half. So once the season really got under the way, about midway through, boy, the Clemson was cooking, and they didn't have another game look like that. So I really like the way I saw the improvement all year too. So I really do like Klubnik. I've got him way up on the list.
Yeah, yeah. I think Klubnik right now for me offers the most like all around stuff, and just enough in the talent department that I would say, yeah, I can take this guy in the first round. It's way too early to like definitively call any of that stuff, but this is a guy that is certainly in my sights for the first
Yeah,
round.
he is. And, if I see back to back 2 years of this, because he's very aggressive too. He's under control, but he's very aggressive. He doesn't mind throwing downfield. He doesn't mind running. He doesn't mind sticking his head in when he needs to. So I like the aggressiveness. If he keeps showing that, I don't mind drafting him top 10 or even top five. It just depends on how the other quarterbacks shake out.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about another quarterback here, a controversial one. This has been my guy though, going back to last year when I thought he might come out. Drew Aller. Aller is a 6'5", 235-pound prospect from Penn State. Senior in 2025. He already has 2 years under his belt as the team starter. Coming out of Medina High School in Medina, Ohio, Aller was a five-star recruit, number one QB prospect in the state, and number three overall player in the country. Last year, he threw for over 3,300 yards and 24 touchdowns. Interestingly, his completion percentage and interceptions both went up last year. So, from a statistical standpoint, that's telling me he's probably taking a few more chances, things that he can and cannot do, which is nice to see. So, Ben, when you're looking at Drew Aller, when you got your initial thoughts going, what are you thinking about for him?
Oh goodness, there's so much to unwrap here with Aller. First of all, as a prospect, I love him. You mentioned the size. He's not going to pick up a lot of first downs necessarily, but he is mobile. He can move around. For a big guy, he can move around, right? So I do like that, but he's not going to rack up a lot of rushing yards. But again, it's all about arm strength for him. He's got it. You talk about the guy who's got the big arm, he can throw anywhere he wants to. He can throw as far as he wants to, anywhere he wants to. And it just, it looks good when he's throwing it. Okay. So check. I like that. Size, big arm, love all of that. He just always leaves me wanting more so far. You talk about a guy that we have all had our eyes on now for 2 or 3 years, and we keep waiting for the real step up, right? And it hasn't happened yet. Now, to be honest, I don't really love the offense they run there at Penn State. I don't think it's
Oh
quarterback
my
friendly,
gosh.
you
Mm-mm.
know? And also, to be honest, I thought that was the worst group of wide receivers out of all the top five conferences last year. I mean, it was dreadful. They've got some new ones in this year, so we'll see if it helps. But boy, they weren't tall, they weren't fast, they didn't create horizontal separation. They were terrible. So some of those guys are out this year. They got some new guys in. Maybe that'll help. But still, you get back to the point of Aller just always leaves me wanting more. I think it's in there. And sometimes he still feels young to me, even though he's not new to college. He still has that young feel. And I still need some more dog to come out of him. There are times where it just looks like, he's working, he's trying, he's thinking, he's planning, But I don't know. It just kind of feels like he's not yet really put in the true time on tape back in the film room. And it doesn't feel like mentally it has clicked yet, you know? And I think of Quinn Ewers a little bit from Texas, which again, they're two different body types.
I was about to say, oh, don't say that. You
Yeah,
hurt
but the same
me.
problem is there.
Mhm.
You're at a really talented place, and the expectations have been really high on you for a while, and everybody wants you to take that real step, and you don't. So everybody's hoping Aller does it this year. He's the one guy who, if he steps up, would just go right to pick 1-1 of any draft in a year. I
Mhm.
mean, you name
Mhm.
it. He hasn't yet done it. So that's where I'm at on Aller so far.
I love Aller from the first throw that I watched from him last year, just the way the ball pops off his hand, even on those short yardage passes. And this isn't a, I'm going to spoil this a little bit, but it's not a Fernando Mendoza where he's throwing hard all the time, right? It's velocity on every ball, but
Mhm.
it's just it just flies off the hand like easy as pie. And that's what you want to see. When we were talking about Klubnik, it's like he has all the skills and he has the makeup, but there's that je ne sais quoi, right? That he just seems to be missing. And Aller has that. You're right. I even just watching the film, and it seems like the people that watch the most college football are the ones that dislike him the most, because they have the context of like what every season's supposed to be and what doesn't happen. Um, but when I was, watching from 2023 games at this time last year to okay, early games last year when we thought he still might come out in 2024 to now watching a couple games from late last season. Viewers were just watching some of the Oregon clips from last year's game against them that I had going. It feels like now it's like a decision making situation more than a inaccurate or immature, not immature, like he's not doing the right things. Maybe that's part of it, but more immature in the sense that like I don't know quite what I need to be doing yet. It felt a little more like I'm just going to squeeze this in and try to make this happen. And it's probably not a good idea, but I have the talent to do it. And I think that especially shows up when, yeah, that supporting cast isn't as strong. And and you'll be able to fill me in more on this. I'm kind of hoping that without Tyler Warren, Penn State's offense can be a little more normal. You mentioned it. There was an influx of some wide receivers, I think, that they got in the transfer portal. So hopefully they can just like be a little more normal, where it's not like every third play, let's have our tight end start lining up at quarterback and then motion it out and do I don't like just give me some regular offense. Can we just have our drop back a couple times and throw some, normal progressions? But anyways, in terms of my actual notes, big and strong, he can hang in the pocket too, man, and he makes plays and he can escape through contact when he does that. He is mobile. He can get out and run or extend the play. Big arm, live over the middle, outside the numbers, wherever you want it. He can spray throws to the outside. He has that like Trevor Lawrence thing where, and maybe that's just always going to be in his game. It's still in Lawrence's game, right? Like to get that extra push to the outside, I have this great arm and it's just going to sail on me every once in a while. Um, my one big thing is, and it's not just the decision making, but he's not always throwing guys open as much as he's kind of throwing to a spot and hoping they get there. And maybe that's a little bit of what you're talking about too, that like offensive maturity where it's okay, maybe the play is designed to be here. So the right thing to do, and I can be 100% right if I just throw it there, right? It's the Madden game where you're trying to throw it into a target and that's where your receiver's supposed to catch it and he does that. But like sometimes there's a safety there or sometimes your receiver's not going to make it to that spot. So how can you adjust while still being right? Now, of course, I just watched another Tom Brady interview where he's like, if those guys can't get it right, then like I'm gonna send them back to Omaha or something like that. And maybe I don't think Aller's quite that guy though, from a mentality standpoint. But I want to see more of that like receiver friendly quarterback too, where like he's throwing the ball like oh just play, just throw it, right? Not aiming it, not putting it in a specific spot, but can you kind of open things up and make a play a little bit? So let me get to some of his stuff here. I should have clipped these into a different direction, maybe put them all separate, but you know what? They're all together. We're all together. Let's just get this going. So here's Aller, and here's that arm. Just like big rocket arm, puts it right on the money too for Tyler Warren. Warren ends up dropping it. Here he gets a nice touch pass right over the middle. That's a harder pass than it looks. straight on down the middle, 15, 20 yards, but with enough air that it was getting the running back away from the linebacker there. That's what he was doing. Here, you get a nice one on a line, but to the back corner of the end zone. You can't put too much air under it because then he's going to end up out of the end zone. You're not going to get that touchdown. Here's one of my favorite plays, though. Aller in the pocket. Oregon breaks through the protection. That is first round pick Derek Harmon getting paws on Drew Aller, and Aller just shakes him off and makes a little pitch to the running back. Here's another angle, same play. Derek Harmon coming in, numbers in the 50s there. Boom, two hands on him, and Aller just shakes him off. We got another play here. Aller's in the pocket in the red zone, and he's going to have this edge rusher over here come up, pull him by a shirt. Like he is pulling Aller's shirt like my toddler pulls me into another room, throws a touchdown on a line, and then another play here where Aller's going to manipulate the pocket, take a juke step up, boom, come back the other way, sidearm that ball a good 12 yards over the middle, right on target. And then I think we got one more play here. Aller's directing things at the line of scrimmage. I do feel like I saw more of that this year too, just from this game. A little bit more direction command at the line of scrimmage. He gets the ball here, boom, manipulates that pocket. Same play, sidearm, nice pass. And then a last one here. He beats that edge rusher coming in on a free blitz and just wraps that ball right around him to the running back on a screen. So just the athletic profile is there, that arm talent is there,
Yeah.
and I do think there's more of the quarterbacking stuff that's happening this time. I think there's more accuracy and more just like throwing the plays that his arm can make. But I want to, yeah, see more completions and see a little bit more quarterback friendly. You kind of already answered the question. Just like, what would that look like for him shooting up that board, like doing everything that we're kind of looking for this year? How would you sum that up? What would that look like this year, you think?
He needs to take a big step because he's going to get drafted no matter what. Even if he has a bad year, he is going to get drafted. It just might be in the sixth or fifth round. But I need to see a big step up. This marginal improvement just isn't enough for me when he's got that kind of talent. Athletes sometimes will tell you that they're not getting it without, they're not using their words, but they're showing you on the field that they're just not getting it. It hasn't clicked yet. And he's showing us that because the marginal improvement is there. Year over year, it's there. You can point to it. But I even mentioned, listen, he throws a pretty ball over the middle because he can see it, right? He's got that 6'5". He can see
Hmm.
everything. I mean, that's beautiful, beautiful throw. But the boundary work is still weak. The deep balls, even when they're open, it's inconsistent. He doesn't always hit those. So again, you're starting to wonder, well, how much is he actually working on his game? And how much, not only just in the film room, but in extra practice during the off season. How much is he working on his footwork and his technique and everything? And it feels like there's still a disconnect. And boy, that's a big thing for me if I'm looking for a guy to pilot my franchise for the next decade. And I feel like there's still a disconnect. I'm like, man, I know you have everything. If I were to go to a quarterback factory and make quarterbacks, they would look like Drew Aller. Okay. They would be 6'5" with mobility and a very big arm. The only thing he doesn't have is Lamar Jackson run skills, right? But
Hmm.
I can't have everything. He's got everything. He's got everything a guy needs, and yet still. So another thing that bothers me from a statistical standpoint, and this always helps too. You look at last year, none of the regular season games were consistently impressive. I think there were two games where he was over 300. One of them he pushed for 400 against SoCal, but you had a lot of 150s during the regular season. I mean, you had 178, you had 214, and I'm like, come on, man. If you are the deal, if you're the guy everybody's pointing at as the guy, and you've got the talent and the arm and the height, you've got to be way more consistent than that. So that's one thing I need to see too, consistently over 200 yards just about every game, pushing 300 in a lot of those. But then when you get to the big ones, you need to be the biggest, baddest guy on the field. And he's just not ever. You get down, it's been too talked about, but you get down to the Ohio State game, the Notre Dame game, he's throwing for 175 yards, you know? And it was one of the notes I had here that you mentioned as well. He just looks confused sometimes as well. And so then I got to go back to the idea of, well, are you spending more time hanging around with the girls than you are studying film? Because I'm sure he's very popular on campus, right? I love this guy. I can't wait for him to step out. But until he does, man, I'm pulling back. That's kind of the way I'm at. I'm going to be back in the third round on him.
Yeah, let him slide to Pittsburgh in the state of Pennsylvania there for that draft this year.
Good.
That'll be just fine. Um, yeah, it's funny. I was gonna say like, man, that they were 13-3 last year. He has the 3,300 yards. But you're
Yep.
right. I mean, Klubnik 3,600 yards. Nussmeier, we're about to talk about 4,000 yards. Like, so there is a little bit of a because I was gonna say like it might not even look like it just on paper that it was a much different year because he was
Right.
like, well, 3,300 yards and 13 wins. Like, man, what
Right.
would it look like to be that much? But yeah, like 3,500, 3,700, and it's how he gets them. It's how he gets them. That'll make the difference. All right, let's talk about Garrett Nussmeier next.
Okay.
Nussmeier is going to be a fifth year senior. Oh no, you're chuckling. I don't know what this means. Nussmeier is going to be a fifth year senior at LSU this year. He's the 6'2", 200 pound, second year signal caller. So he's going to be there for 5 years. This will be his second year as a starter, coming out of Edward S. Marcus High School in Flower Mound, Texas. He was a 4-star at 247 and the 19th ranked quarterback, and the 27th ranked player out of the state in 2021. He threw for over 4,000 yards last year and received some first round buzz midseason. Remember when that happened out of nowhere before
Yeah.
deciding to go back to school? Nussmeier's dad is a current NFL coach. He has been in the NFL since 2018. Longtime coach, though, currently the offensive coordinator of the ding, ding, ding New Orleans Saints after spending time in Dallas, LA with the Rams, and Philadelphia. So, Garrett Nussmeier, Ben, talk to me about him.
I'm going to read a lot of notes, but let me just say first on Garrett, bless his heart. He looks better on film than when I watch him in the games, to be honest. I mean, when I
Yeesh.
watch him live in the games, I just wasn't impressed. I watched the film. I'm like, hey, I like this guy a lot better. I'm either going to draft this guy number one overall next year, or I'm going to draft him late second round. I can't decide which it's going to be. All right. There are people who are staking flags on both heels. I haven't decided yet. Okay. Here's some notes. Uh, Very aggressive. He is very aggressive. That's where he gets the gunslinger mode at. He does not have the cannon arm like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. He does not have that. All right. But he's very aggressive. And that's where he gets the gunslinger mode. And he does have a good arm. All right. He's got a good, strong arm. It's just not the boomer cannon arm. But boy, is he aggressive. Boundary heavy. He throws a lot of passes to the
Hmm.
boundary. Part of that's the LSU offense. They tend to like to get the ball to their wide receivers because there's usually a speed, athleticism advantage, but still, that's very boundary heavy. I noticed that he throws a lot of that. Good arm strength. I got to stress that it is good arm strength. It's just not probably as good as he thinks it is. It's just not impressive in spite of production sometimes. The production is there. And if he takes a small step up in production this year, he may win the Heisman. So I like that. When you see a guy, they are statistically telling you that there is something clicking there when they are producing at that high a level. Okay. And he's there. All right. So I really like that. That's important. And he's doing it against real competition. This is the best defenses that football has to offer. Okay. And he's doing it against those defenses. So, but again, when you watch him, it's just not that impressive. Like live watches, you're like, man, he missed that pass. Man, that was a quiet quarter. Boy, that was a bad interception. That's what you get live watching. You go back and watch the film, it feels better. Gets the ball out quick. They have gotten to him last offseason. They got into him. He gets the ball out quick. He does not typically hang on to the ball a long time. He does. Boy, he makes a decision. The ball's out. So I do like that. There are times, there are times where he's very accurate and other times where he's just throwing to an area. I've noticed he's throwing it. He knows that LSU receiver can get out to a spot. He just throws out to that area. He lets the receiver make a play. So there are times when he's not accurate. He's just throwing to an area and the LSU receiver is pulling it down. That can be good and bad. He's not comfortable in the red zone. He likes his space. I mentioned he throws to areas. He is not very comfortable in the red zone very often. I mean, I'm not saying he makes no throws, but typically he likes to be farther back and cash in from the 30-yard line than working at the 10. He's not super comfortable there inside the red zone. I've noticed going to his left, percentage drops a lot. Now, there are some pretty throws to his left, but also there's a lot of bad stuff happens when he goes to his left. I don't know why that is, just the way he sees it. I don't like, but I'll end with this. Some of his prettiest throws that he'll ever make, and he can make some pretty ones, right over the middle. He doesn't throw to the middle a lot. I don't know why. If there's a linebacker safety sitting there, he's not going there. But some of the prettiest on time, money, touch, layer throws you'll ever see come shooting out of Nussmeier right over the middle, and there's no telling how far they'll carry it. So that's a lot of what I saw out of Garrett. I still don't know where I feel about him, but I'm open to the idea now of drafting him very high.
Nussmeier confuses me. Um, that's probably the guy I'm gonna have like the closest eye on this year. Like every time new film comes out on him, like I'm gonna watch it because I'm with you. And it's funny when you said the film is better than watching it live. Like when I'm watching, man, I'm trudging through it a little bit because I you're and this is gonna I hate to do this. I really do like focusing more on like the good stuff, and I will talk about a couple of those things. They unfortunately run counter to a couple of things you just said, which is super unfortunate. So that'll be fun.
That's
But
Garrett Nussmeier, though. That's what he is.
eye of the beholder type of guy. I mean,
Yes.
when November came around last year and Dane Brugler was like, "This might be my quarterback one." I immediately turned on. Oh man, I have it in here somewhere. Who I watched from last year, but I watched it and I was like, him, that guy. Like it's the opposite of the me meme. Um, I was just like, okay, like but like he's not. He looks bigger than he's listed too, which is weird. Like I don't know what kind of shoulder pads they're putting on him, but
Yeah.
like 6'2", 200 pounds. That makes me nervous. Like he's not super mobile. Let me let me start with some. I shouldn't say start. I just said mean things for 2 minutes. Let me give you some good things. Out of everybody, the thing that stuck out most is he is constantly communicating and making calls at the line of scrimmage, and that was his first year as the starter. Granted, his fourth year with the team, but his first year as the starter and at LSU. You mentioned it, SEC versus all these other guys who have been multi-year starters pretty much, are also upperclassmen. He's constantly communicating, pointing things out, changing things out of the line of scrimmage. Coach's son, right? You like that. I think he is pretty good at throwing on the run. I think some of his best throws actually do happen on the run. Um, and it's funny, I wrote here, especially to his left. I have a couple highlights of him where he is going left. So it's probably that like consistency thing, right? And I think that jives with a lot of what you were saying.
Yeah.
It's funny, you remember a few years ago when my whole thing with Baker Mayfield was like he's good because he thinks he's better than he actually is,
Yeah.
and that makes up for. And I
Yes.
think McShay might have even comped Nussmeier to Baker, but it reminds me of that where it's like I'm
Right.
gonna go out and I'm gonna dare to make this play to go into my left, and like to me when I watched, like I said, I watched the Alabama game from this year, another game where they got their tails kicked actually, but
Yes.
um those two plays he made, man, those were beautiful. Those were I need to make a play type plays. So
They
he
were.
has that in him. But if you're also saying for every one of those, there are three that sail over the guy's head or just inaccurate or don't pan out, because there was one he tried to do it and he took a sack on because he tried to spin out to the left, not paying attention, and Alabama defensive end just eats him up.
Right.
Um, so those things might not always align, that talent and that vision of what he's trying to do. Um, but yeah, decent arm. He does tend to have happy feet in the pocket though. I mentioned Klubnik, how well he maneuvered in the pocket, and then Georgia started to really just turn the pressure up, and he got a little bit tighter, but he still was doing okay. Like
Yeah.
Nussmeier, just as soon as the ball is snapped, he's like moving his feet all around. He just doesn't really ever look comfortable. Um, and my big thing with him is if you're saying, and not you specifically, but if one is saying they're not an Aller guy, I don't see how you can be a Nussmeier guy. Because I see a lot of the same things in terms of like the decision making and where they put balls,
Yeah.
but it's clear that Aller has so much more physical talent to him. So I just don't see like do you know people like you, so on your YouTube channel you have already covered like 12 quarterbacks. You did that earlier in the summer. Did anybody on that show or anybody else that you've been talking to lean towards Nussmeier versus Aller, like in a big way, like they're Nussmeier guys and they're not Aller guys, or is everybody kind of where we're at?
Yeah. Well, honestly, almost everybody I've talked to is still waiting on Aller to take the next big step, to
Right.
be honest. That's kind of what they're the physical tools are there though. You said it.
Mhm. All right, let me play these couple highlights. I don't have much on Nussmeier. I have plays on for all of these guys saved of things I don't love, but it's things that I'm hoping they can work on. So I do want to focus on the good things tonight. Nussmeier, let me get past all these awesome Aller plays. There's just so many of them. All right, here's Nussmeier in the shotgun. He's got Alabama. Alabama's dropping back into this zone, and right here, you don't even see the LSU defender yet. But there's this nice window right here between these two players for Alabama.
Right.
Now, it doesn't work out. LSU wide receiver is down on his back trying to go back to it. But that linebacker was here. He was where that wide receiver was going. The wide receiver was trying to run all the way through the route. That was a case of Nussmeier saying, "Hey man, sit right here in the zone because you have all this space right here where if you catch that there along that route, you can turn up field and go. Meanwhile, this other defensive back is over here. You'll run right into him." So I gave a generous view of that and thought that would have been a good play had it worked out. Here's the two throws going to his left. So he's going left. He takes off. He finds, I think that might be Mason Taylor over there, open 15 yards down the field. Here's the big one though. He breaks the contain on the in the pocket, makes a nice play about 25 yards there. Pretty unbalanced. Not any great footwork there, but right before the end zone for LSU. So he can make those plays to the left.
Yep. You
And
can.
here's another one. It might be the same play actually now that I think about it. Yep, breaks contain, boom, gets out of there, throws it. Nice play. All right to the sideline, totally safe. There were a few defenders there, so really safe ball. But again, just not a lot there. We'll see. What's the one thing for Nussmeier this year? Is it a specific skill set? Is it a specific outcome? What's the one thing you're looking forward to maybe raise his stock?
It's interceptions. I'll touch on here in a second. To be clear, he has some beautiful plays to his left. I mean, beautiful. And I mean aggressive, layered. Oh my gosh, put it where only the wide receiver could get it. There are some beautiful plays to the left, but percentage wise, it gets real ugly real fast on a
Yeah.
lot of plays to the left. That was something I mean, boy, it was it was hit or miss. It will either be a beautiful play or it's going to be real bad real fast. And that's everything from sacks to interceptions to what were you thinking? I mean, just a lot of that. And boy, but you're right. There's several beautiful plays to the left. Some of his best plays are to the left. Go figure. His while he's throwing off balance in some cases. It's insane. The interceptions, and I'm not so worried about the number because it was 12 last year. It's the interceptions and clusters that always
Hmm.
bothers me. When I see
Yeah.
a quarterback having multiple multiple interception games, that's a big problem for me. Now, again, it doesn't mean that I'm not thinking about drafting him because clearly I am
Hmm.
much more than I thought I would. But boy, he'll have two interceptions, two interceptions. The Texas A&M game, there were three interceptions. And some of these games are games in which he puts out 300 or 400 passing yards and also has two or three interceptions. You
Hmm.
can the same quarter, the same game, these inconsistencies with Garrett Nussmeier, and that's why some people love him and some people are out on him. That's why you and I can't even quite figure out how we feel about him. He
Yeah.
inspires that. I don't necessarily need him to drop down to four interceptions like a Heisman Trophy winner usually has. I just need it to be single interception games. So if he has 8 games this year where he throws one pick and no games this year with multiple interceptions, that'll be really big for me. That'll show that he can control himself while still getting the production. I expect him to zoom past 4,000 passing yards this year. He should be up somewhere around 4,500 is where I expect him to be. So if he can do that and not have those interceptions and clusters, that'll make me feel a whole lot better about him because I'll think he's being more consistent with decision making, timing, everything.
LSU went 9-4 last year. Was that a relative disappointment for their preseason expectations, or in their like recruiting and transfer cycle, did that feel like what was expected last year?
It not necessarily for preseason expectations, but yes, Brian Kelly and company for as well as they can, as easy as it is to recruit down there, they should be better than 9-4. Yes.
So the way you just mentioned like the clusters, and the you can have 300 yards passing, 400 yards passing, and then two or three interceptions in the same game. That's a red flag for me. And now again, he has this whole year to work through that, right? It was his first year as a starter last year. But to me, that's like a basketball player. That's a volume shooter. That's a hey, I put up 20 points tonight, but
Yes.
I went 10 of 25 with no assists and four turnovers.
Right.
But I put up 25, 20 points. You know, that's good. And it's like, okay, well, like shoot, man. Like if I, you know, shoot the ball 25 times, I might make eight or nine of them myself. So
Yeah.
if I'm a quarterback and I'm doing the gunslinging thing and I'm rolling to my left and trying to hit 25-yard balls five times a game and I'm hitting one or two of them,
Yeah.
I'm still getting 50 yards out of those plays, but on those other plays, do I get one interception for every two completions?
Right.
And what is that doing? My team's 9-4. What's that doing for my team? Um, I just had two or three offensive linemen drafted. I had a tight end draft. I you mentioned Quinn Ewers earlier. Like when I watched Quinn Ewers for the first time last year doing this exercise, I even asked you with him, I was like, is he good or is there just a lot of NFL players? Because at that point I was watching like Whittington was still there and it was Bond and it was all these guys. I'm kind of getting that feeling with Nussmeier. And he is a darling among the draftniks right now, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Anything else for you on that? So I actually have an answer to this. What I want to see from him this year, yeah, like you said, cut down on the interceptions, but just can we make a higher percentage of the high level plays and a lower percentage of the low level plays? So not just touchdowns to interceptions, but like can those five rollouts to the left a game be four completions and one incompletion?
Yeah.
Can there be less of the like tight window throws in the middle and can we maneuver in the pocket to find something a little bit better, right? Can we change that distribution a little bit? And that's something because I'm still not going to sit down on Saturdays and watch college football. Is that still something that I can see on film when I watch where I'm just like, hey, that was just like more positive plays, even if the raw yardage maybe is about the same.
My two final thoughts on Garrett Nussmeier, and we could talk about him for an hour. He merits that kind of conversation, inspires that kind of confusion. I do feel like the light came on for him. I heard a writer write that midway through last season. Hey, the lights come on. I watched the games. I wasn't impressed. But you look at the production, the light has come on for him. When you throw for as many yards as he threw last year, the light has come on. So I do feel
Something's
good
working.
about that part of it. Yes. As opposed to Aller, where I'm like, I'm looking at the yardage. Man, something still hasn't clicked here yet. Something clicked. But now for Nussmeier, I don't ever look at him as being a true number one overall pick kind of a
Yeah.
guy who's going to
Hmm.
be elite at the next level. I don't need him to be that necessarily, but then I start to refocus. It's like, okay, what if he is a Baker Mayfield guy? What if he's a Derek Carr? You and I have had this conversation in drafts
Hmm.
before, right?
Yep.
What if I know that's what I'm getting? And I could
Hmm.
see him being that. I think that's well within his range. So what if I'm getting that? Would I draft him number 5 overall? I'll think about it. So that's where I'm at on Nussmeier, and we'll see come draft time how I feel about all that.
All right. Before we keep going with quarterbacks, let me just fill you guys in on a little bit happening at Box Score Network. So all the pods are coming back and we're getting NFL football focus. So two P's on a pod this week. Peyton and Parker give out their best bets for the NFL season and give their official predictions for division winners, playoff teams, and of course the Super Bowl champion. And then over on the Tricky Takes podcast as well, which you, if you're watching this on YouTube, you've seen a lot of Tricky Takes on YouTube giving out their baseball team of the month, but they're getting back in the NFL game as well, giving their win total over unders, starting with the AFC. Tune in as they peer into their crystal ball and tell the future for all 32 teams over the next 2 weeks at Tricky Take. So that'll be a two-part series. AFC this week, though, looking at the over and under. So that's Box Score Network. Make sure you guys are checking all that stuff out. Again, you can see Box Score Network content here on YouTube from individual pods. Peyton from 2Ps is putting up trivia. One of our latest trivia segments just went up this week as well. So make sure you check out the work that all those fine fellows are putting in. Next up, Ben, this is the official NFL Draft Twitter hipster quarterback number one for this year, and it is Fernando Mendoza. Mendoza is a redshirt junior out of Indiana via Cal, transferring to Indiana under Coach Signetti. This will be his first in 1 year there. Mendoza is 6'5", 225 pounds. He's transferring to Indiana after 2 years as a starter at Cal. He attended Christopher Columbus High School in Miami, Florida, where he was a three-star recruit. Last year at Cal, he topped the 3,000-yard passing mark and added 16 touchdowns. Uh, your thoughts on Mr. Mendoza, Ben?
I'm going to read my notes and then I'll pass it back to you and you can read notes. We'll watch clips and then we'll have our conversation. So here they are. Play small for such a big guy. And by that, I mean, I see him crouching a lot. I see him kind of ducking
Mm,
a lot, aiming a lot. I didn't see the big voluminous throws downfield that I would like. I'll get more into that later. Good light touch passes. I just saw him hitting passes all over the field, left, right, middle. I really like his ability to get the ball where people can catch it. He does throw hard, but there's still that ability of that ball just be right there where it needs to be a lot of times. I like that. Good mobility. You can see him kind of work and scoop. He's gone for a short touchdown. Not a long touchdown usually, but boy, if you're not keeping an eye on him, all of a sudden he's out and he's catching a good 20-yard touchdown. Excellent ball. Okay, here's a weird sentence, so I apologize. Excellent ball placements consistently on back shoulder throws at the 15-yard range. Okay, not 40 yards downfield. 15 yards, he's got it. Boy, it's like little darts. Just he nails it. I love that. Sometimes kind of feels like he's aiming the ball, and that's
hmm
that's something I've never. I can go over to baseball. This baseball was a big thing for me. I used to coach little league baseball. My kid pitchers that were trying to aim the ball, just trying to kind of put it right
hmm
there on the plate. I'm like, man, forget that. You need to relax your throw, let your athleticism take over. You may be a little wild at first. You don't have to throw hard, but you got to let it be smooth. Whenever I see a quarterback doing that, it makes me A, feel like he's not very confident in what he can do, and B, he's not particularly natural at it. So that's always going to bother me some when I see it. He can pick up first downs with his feet, but again, he's not explosively fast. He's excellent at hitting receivers and open windows in stride. The windows thing seemed to be big for him. When he saw a guy, I don't know, it was like two intersecting points. He seems to really see that very well.
Yep.
When he sees
hmm
that, it's like hit it, hit it, hit it. But again, not deep downfield, but just within this circle right here. Boy, it's like he could just see these two intersecting points and put it. So I did like that. I thought that was great. I really was impressed with that. Good arm strength under 30, but does not feel like a big arm to me. And then the production I like. I think it was 3,300 yards last year, and I think he
hmm
was even injured for a game or two.
mm
And I'm totally sure he started the season as starter. I can't remember that, but anyway, good production. That's my notes on him. We'll talk more in a second.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he's fun. He's fun. He takes a lot of hits in the pocket and out on the move. Like
Yeah.
he will just stand there and get rocked. And he like comparing him to Aller in that sense, because these are the two 6'5" guys. I noted that both are willing to stand in the pocket and extend a play, take a hit from a lineman. But especially out on the like he can shake the defenders off by Aller, like Aller. But when he's outside of the pocket, he's actually scrambling. Aller, I think, is a little bit better at getting down and avoiding really taking a beating unless he's trying to go in for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Mendoza, it's almost like either doesn't know or doesn't care where the defenders are. Like he will just he gets clobbered. It feels like every play. I definitely saw a couple of the light touch passes. There's one at the beginning of my clips where he's got that because there's no defenders around really. It's a good ball. It's a nice play, but no real defender, so he's able to put a little air under it. But other than that, yeah, he fires that ball in there. He wants to rocket that thing every freaking chance he gets. And he'll do it, yeah, in those windows between defenders. He'll do that between like the sideline and his guy going out of bounds, sort of thing. And he does have some overall athleticism,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but it is a little like the clip of Ben in training camp when he's just like letting all the pads and the coaches just hit him, and he's just like shaking them all off. Like Mendoza's really just is willing to do that, and then he gets into open grass, and yeah, he could scoot a little bit, do his thing, and then more defenders will come up, and he'll just like keep getting hit again and again, and like it's one of those things that it's fun, and then you see it for like the eighth time in a row, and you're like, is this actually a problem? Does he know those guys are there? Is he just taking it willingly, or is like there something with the vision going on? Like I don't know. It made me a little bit nervous. Um, yeah, in terms of him being up there on Draft Twitter's darling, when that happens, I normally expect to see like crazy arm talent or crazy mobility, and I didn't see either of those things. So here's a nice play though. Play action. He rolls right. He's got a receiver working from right to left. There's no safety over the top. So he's able to just kind of put it on his spot, but he puts in a good spot. It is a little different than the Aller Nussmeier thing, I think, where he's just like, I'm just going to throw this over here and let my receiver go get it because there's no other defender he has to be worried about. Boom, 83 there. Nice long touchdown, almost touchdown. Receiver fell down. And then here is a tight window throw. All right, watch this. Uh, he's gonna have two linebackers here. Look, everybody's running right, even the defenders, and he likes this window right here. He sees that, and he's just gonna hit his guy, boop, right there. Didn't even see the receiver coming into frame until the last second. Here's another play, empty in shotgun, fake right, boom, rips a slant over the middle as hard as he possibly can. Same thing, rolling right here, boom, on a line over that defender, shoulder, gets his wide receiver to the sideline before making the catch. And then here was a nice placed ball. I want you guys to see where this ball was put, even though it's on a line, boom. That's kind of that back shoulder fade that Ben was talking about. That's not the play, but it's that similar throw. That was about 10 to 12 yards, but he gets it in the back corner of the end zone for those extra 5 yards there. And it's on a line so the defender can't play it. His receiver's not falling out. You know, when you the instinct is to put some air under that and let your receiver go get it, but your guy's going to go out of bounds more times than not. He puts that ball on a line so his receiver can catch it right on at the pylon. I did like that. So here he is. This is going to be a couple plays where he starts escaping a little bit, taking some hits. Boom, defend nose tackle, jumps on his head, and he just ducks and goes out to the left, gets a pass out to his tight end. And then I think we got one more play here where he doesn't see anything, does it? Oop, he does a little stutter step, that slow juke, and then he just starts running. He starts running. He starts running. Oh, there's a defender. Oops, didn't see him. Oh, there's another defender. So really, he is a fun player. And maybe that's where the like hipster draft film darling has come from, just that he's fun. Um, but yeah, he's just like, I'm gonna throw the ball hard, I'm gonna take hits, and I'm gonna just see what happens. You know, that last play that I showed, he's running for horizontal from right to left. You don't see quarterbacks do that unless they're the next guy we're gonna talk about. But he's running like all the way from right to left and like doesn't even see the defender coming from that side at him. You know there are other people here, right? So fun player. What's something on Mendoza that you're looking for this year, especially because he's going to be at Indiana. He's transferring. Indiana had a good year last year. Signetti's kind of a madman. Um, what are you looking for from Mendoza this year to help raise wherever your stock is on him right now?
I got several things. So, number one is you mentioned the move over to Indiana. I need to see him do the same things now against better defenses. He played last year against mostly ACC defenses, which is
Hmm.
fine. That's legit college, but it's a big step up to Big Ten defenses. So I want to see him do the same thing against Big Ten defenses. That's number one. The second thing is I really do want to see him play bigger. It almost feels like I'm watching. Okay, there's two images I'm going to mention here, and I don't mean to insult him, but again, this is one reason I'm not yet ready to pull the trigger on him as my franchise guy, right? Whether it's first round, early second round, I'm just not ready yet. Um, it almost feels like I'm watching a cartoon, and it's like this little kid who's one thing and he wants to be something else, and everybody's telling him, "No, no, you're gifted for this," and he's like, "But I want to be this." You know,
Hmm.
it's like somebody that wants to, I don't know, they're gifted to be a basketball player and they want to go be a policeman instead. There's nothing wrong with that, but wow, you've got these gifts to be a basketball player, right? When I watch him, he's a big guy. You feel like he should be a first or third baseman in baseball, but he wants to go play second base, right? It's that, you know, he again, the tiptoeing thing and the crouching thing for a guy that big, I'm like, my gosh, where did you learn that at? You know? And then I start to get shades of 7-on-7 football. And I could be wrong about that, but it's got
Interesting.
that feel to it, that kind of youth football feel.
Mm,
And I almost need him to just mentally step up a little bit here, play a little bit bigger game. And I wonder if he does that, start to platform more, start to structure the way he holds his feet and his body and use that length and height. If we don't start seeing more velocity and deep ball throws, you know, it's not that
hmm
he never
hmm
threw a deep ball, but most of the time when he threw a deep ball, it was to jack injuries going on some kind of a tight end seam post route, right? And he's just open over there and he nails it, right?
Uh-huh.
I need him to grow up a little bit. I need him to play a little bit bigger. I need him to do this against Big Ten competition. I will say though, I like the production. When I go over to the stats page and I see 400 yards, 300 yards, 300 yards after those first three games, which were all three wins for Cal, he didn't throw less than 200 yards the rest of the year. Matter of fact, he was consistently throwing 250 or more per game, even as the competition got a little bit better, you know? So I like that. Obviously, he gets it. He's in the game. He's fighting for yards. He's making plays. That's important. I see that. I see him in there fighting. But again, it still feels young to me. It feels like it's not fully developed or grown or blossomed yet. And, you know, here he is last year at Indiana. So feels like a system quarterback. Feels like this is a guy that if he got with the right coach, they could win a lot of games. Not the guy I'm really thinking about first overall pick and save my franchise kind of stuff.
When you mentioned like like the desire to be something else, but his talent is taking him one place, I thought it was going to be like he really wants to be like a NASCAR series dirt track racer.
Yeah.
But they were like, hey man, you're really good at football. You should try to play some football. Because he does just like he literally wants to play in the mud. Like he just like he's like, let me just take a few hits
Yeah.
and I'll just oh wait, I have to throw the ball. Okay, well let me just throw it as hard as I can over that way and we'll get to the next play. Um yeah, the offense, the new conference, Signetti, like the whole everything around him. I just want to see yeah what that looks like, what he elevates to. Or is he just like him and like with prettier weapons and like is that really like that's
Yeah.
also interesting as a hypothesis. Like what would it look like if you just put this guy who
Mm-hmm.
plays this way in a new offense and with new pieces? I like either way, I'm interested.
See, and I
Um
won't go here, but you know, if I were franchise matching Shanahan in San Francisco with a lot of
hmm
this horizontal stuff and then the occasional vertical, but it's a
hmm
well-planned vertical stuff, that won't happen because of them paying Purdy. But that's the kind of thing where if I were drafting, I would want him for, you know,
and just that like just point and shoot. Like yeah, man, just tell me where to throw the ball and I'll throw the ball. That
he
yeah,
can see
that'd be
the
interesting.
windows. Boy, he can see the windows.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to our last deep dive guy. At least my last deep dive guy. We'll have a sixth guy here that we obviously need to talk about. Lenore Sellers. Sellers is a junior quarterback out of South Carolina. 1 year starter, stands 6'3", 240 pounds. He attended South Florence High School in Florence, South Carolina, where he was a three-star recruit. They had 247 had him as the 34 ranked quarterback and seventh best prospect in South Carolina in the 2023 class. I think that 34th best ranked quarterback might have been nationally. I don't remember. Last year, he was the SEC Freshman of the Year after throwing for over 2,500 yards and 18 touchdowns, and he just turned 20 this past June. So Ben, obviously Lenore Sellers, he was before Mendoza, he was kind of the hot like Twitter draft quarterback guy, like right after the draft, right after the 2025 draft. It was like, all right, all eyes on Lenore Sellers. But like it's only going to be a second year starter. He just turned 20. The chances we'll see if he comes out or not. Um so add that into your analysis at any point there with will he or should he come out or not. But then just what are your overall thoughts on Lenore Sellers? And yes, I do have the most clips of Lenore Sellers of any of these quarterbacks we're talking about tonight.
And he deserves it. And I think I know what those clips are going to be of, but I'll wait on that. I do have one.
I really had to limit it, Ben. I had to pick and choose, man. These are freaking sick. All right, but go ahead.
There's one feature about him that is a little controversial. I can't wait to hear what your assessment of it is. I know what mine is already, but we'll get to that. I don't have a ton of notes on Sellers, but I watched Sellers all last year. I really loved him. I really, 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 really
This
do
is
like.
literally your neck of the woods.
Yes, I love Sellers. Not top of the draft yet, but maybe coming. I really love Sellers. Okay, first of all, the running. Okay, him running the football is like a running back running the football. He is better at running the football than some of the running backs out there in college, and that's saying a lot. He's got shake and bake, not quite Barry Sanders esque, but he's got more shake and bake than most running backs have. That ability to move and shake and just leave you standing there, gone. All right, he's got that. But that's not all he's got. He's got the ability to break tackles out the
Mm-hmm.
wazoo, multiple
Mm-hmm.
tackles on one play and still scoot. All right. He he's not elite speed, I don't think. I haven't seen that true just boom, goodbye speed, but he will get big chunks of yardage after breaking tackles. So he may shake a guy out, he may break two tackles and still get 30 yards. I mean, it is sick. It is so fun to watch. I didn't see him break a lot of 50 and 60 yarders. I did see defensive backs catch him sometimes downfield. So those are two things I always look for when I'm looking for that elite speed. I didn't see that, but it's still very good speed. And it's just so fun to watch him break tackles and shake people out. All right. So I love that. The arm. I think he has a strong arm, but it's not elite. That's what I'm seeing. I've seen him just chuck it downfield, but there are times also where I see him throw it and it's like it's not just a footwork thing, although that is an issue. It doesn't seem like the arm strength is always there consistently the way we would think of an Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes, Allen. It does not feel up there. It feels like down here. So I like the arm strength. There's enough there, but it's not Superman throwing the football. I my final note here before I hand it over to you for a little bit because I have more, but the one thing I want to talk about, he's still very raw. He is unbelievably raw. You mentioned his age. He's not developed yet. The technique isn't there throwing. It's not there footwork wise. It's not there reading the defense yet. He's young, but that also gets you excited to think about that was his first year and he's so young and he looks so good. So you think to yourself, I do, he's had 8 months to work out and get better at all of this. Does he look sharper this year, technique wise? I'm really excited about Sellers, but it's still raw. So that's where I'm at so far on Sellers.
It will not surprise you that I love Lenore Sellers. This is this guy is freaking awesome. Um, if obviously we had many conversations last year about this, but listeners, if you were listening last year, know I really liked Jalen Milroe, and I liked not
Yeah.
only the running ability, but the intangibles that went with the running ability. The I will break tackles to try and win games. I
Yeah.
forget which game it was now. It might have been a Georgia game. I think it was Georgia, where just like
Yeah.
Alabama couldn't do anything else.
It was Georgia.
Running backs couldn't run the ball. Receivers weren't getting open. Receivers weren't catching balls in their hands. And he literally just put the team on his back and just started running people over and was like, well, this is the only way we're going to get yards, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Lenore Sellers has all of that. And he had that as a first year starter at South Carolina. I'm watching him play Clemson and Mizzou. Mizzou was a top 20 defense last year by scoring.
Yeah.
And Clemson is Clemson. They're going to have like 8 dudes drafted this year on defense. And Milroe was a fourth year player and second year starter at Alabama, and had those intangibles to go with the skills. And Sellers is doing all those things. But I think right now, Sellers is already technically more sound and just a better thrower of the ball than Milroe is. I
Yeah.
think a lot of the stuff you were talking about with Sellers' throwing ability was correct, but I think that was that like just that experience factor. Like, hey, when do I ease up on the throttle? When do I throw it a little harder? When do I hold the ball for an extra second? When do I get it out a little bit quicker? But I showed the clips and I'll show the clips again because they're freaking awesome. But even on the throws, like there are throws that are accurate to the sideline with touch when
Yeah.
you need it. There are throws over the middle with a little more zip when you need it. I think he's already a better passer than Milroe was, but you can even see play to play where my gosh, like that's just a rep thing. Like he's gonna see that one time and apply it to the next game. Like the two games, Clemson and Mizzou, I'm pretty sure the Clemson game was before. I can't remember 100% now, but like the Mizzou game was a lot even cleaner passing the ball. He had more of those deep downfield throws in that game versus the Clemson game. Um, the Clemson game too, I'll talk about it at the end, but there was a really high level of maturity at the end of that game that they came back and won, which was awesome. So let me go ahead and just get to the plays again because they're the best. Let me zoom past all these other losers here. Just kidding. Let's see. There's Mendoza running into people. All right, here's Sellers. First play, nose tackle gets him. He ducks under him. He ducks under another defense tackle. Jukes the linebacker. Jukes a safety to the ground. Breaks his freaking ankles and gets out. There's what Ben's talking about. That closing speed. That corner catches him. But man, that was a 50-yard run there. Boom, steps up in the pocket. Past three defenders, guys. Three defenders, four defenders. Get hands on him. And he just runs through, runs right up the middle. And I want you guys to remember this play. So here, right at the end, he did a little dip past that corner to get to the pylon for the touchdown. I want you to remember that play for later. All right. And I'm also just realizing here, if you're listening on audio, you're not seeing these plays. Hopefully, I'm doing my best radio impersonation for you. Here, now, I don't love this, Ben. He breaks these tackles, but his instinct on that play, he took pressure up the middle and he ran backwards. And he turned his back from the defense. I don't love that. But when you're this
Nope.
level of athlete, you can get away with it, and he does. He rolls all the way out to the sideline. He's got good blocking here, too, but he cuts inside, cuts over the middle, jukes another linebacker, gets in like 10 yards from that. Should have been a 10-yard sack. Here, drops back. Nice touch pass layered over the corner before the safety can drop in. Didn't carry that receiver up here to the 45 where that safety's coming. He drops it right here on a line. Really nice job. Really nice pass up the sideline there. Next play here, shotgun, and he's gonna get the snap. He's taking some pressure. He steps up. Nice little dart over the middle. Steps up, gets that little heat on that ball. This is a really fun one here. Watch this receiver coming from the left side over to the right side. He drops back. He hits him on a line. He gets good velocity on that ball. Make sure that the safety can't come back and get it. Here's one of these other passes on a line to the back of the end zone. Boom. Receiver catches it. Game winning touchdown throw. No, it's called back. He gets another, I think it's third down, fourth down at this point. He drops back. Nothing is open. This guy is a first year starter against Clemson in the SEC. He throws a game winning touchdown that his receiver drops. And then he comes out on this next play and does this. Breaks a tackle, breaks a tackle, breaks a tackle, runs, runs, runs. Watch this play right here. You guys remember that first touchdown run where he juked the defender and he went to the pylon? This time he jukes the defender and cuts right upfield. The defender shot for that pylon. That defender shot for the pylon because they know he likes to run to the pylon, and Sellers checkmates him and gets out there. Here's the next game against Mizzou. Drop pack, nice deep ball, nice touch on that. Gets to the sideline. Another deep ball, a little bit more zip to that one because the corner is right behind. Another drop back, escapes to the right, stops, boom, catches a guy over the middle. So man, there are some real throws here, guys. But the running, the break tackle, the maturity, the stick to itiveness. I really like what Sellers did. Now, all that, depending on what happens this year, I would probably vote for him to go back for another year. But who knows, man? This guy, he could jump off the tape. He could look around some of these other guys we talked about. Maybe Aller doesn't have the big game or the big season we want. Maybe Nussmeier's just a lot of the same. And he's like, shoot, man, he's looking around. I might be the first overall pick. I might just have to come out. Um, but just based on the 1 year and what I've watched in a couple games here, I can see where just like the reps are necessary. But I don't know, man. That talent is already freaking there. So depending on where it would be too, I wouldn't mind seeing Lenore Sellers come out in 2026.
There's so much to talk about here. I'll say it quick. First of all, the Jalen Milroe comparison is perfect. And you already talked about how they're different. And I totally agree. Milroe was faster. Milroe had that elite speed, that top end run away from everybody, including SEC defensive backs speed. Milroe had that. He also had the breaking tackle ability, but Sellers, although not as fast, is better at breaking tackles. But still, it's a very fair comparison, and you're 1,000% right. Sellers is already a better passer than Milroe ever was at any point at Alabama. And that's one reason I struggled to ever get excited about Jalen Milroe, even though I could see, things here and there. Sellers is already better. He's already the reason that South Carolina's winning some of these games. He's the reason. He's the one providing the toughness, the running game, the passes you mentioned, sometimes deep, sometimes boundary, sometimes layered. He's got all that. It's just not consistent enough, and they're not yet asking him to throw. But what I did like early in the season, you could see him throwing for 170 yards, 200 yards, 195 yards. As the season picked up and the schedule didn't get softer, as the season picked up, you started seeing him throw for a bunch more yardage. It was like lights on, buddy. He already kind of looked good early, but he looked great in the second half of the year. What was it? Over 300 yards he passed for against Missouri. I think he lit up Clemson, both passing and running the football. He was able to throw for, I think, 260 yards against Illinois in the bowl game. I mean, you talk about producing against good teams. Really, really like that and winning those games. You mentioned that too, that he's winning. So that's why I'm excited about him. I do still think the number one thing I want to see coming back this year, I want to see the more consistent footwork. I want to see the more consistent arm throws, the more consistent same slot. It's fine to throw from all kinds of different slots, but you should always have one slot that is your base that you work out of, that you're consistent at. I need to see more of that. He doesn't yet have that. So all of that, I really love Sellers. One other thing I need to see him clear up too is sacks. You saw a
Hmm.
lot. Goodness gracious. 5 sacks, 6 sacks, 4 sacks, 5 sacks. There was probably 6 or 7 games last year. Surprisingly, none against Texas A&M. But from watching him, what's happening is it's not that the edge rushers are getting to him and he's like, oh crap, I didn't throw the ball away. These are coverage sacks that he's taking. Because anytime somebody's right on top of him quick, he's just gone. I'll go pick up 40 yards. See you later. But that's not what's hurting him. It's when there's nobody open and he doesn't have a lane to run to and they're compressing him. I need to see him mature out of that too. So we don't need so many coverage sacks here. We need to throw the ball away or duck in, catch 2 yards, and call it a day. Right? I need to see fewer sacks, man. When you're catching 6 sacks in a game and 5 in a
Mhm.
game, that's a lot, man. I need to see that come down. It came down a little toward the end of the year, but still, we're looking at 3 sacks and 2 sacks. I need that to come down. So, really love Sellers.
Yeah, and obviously like 2,500 yards is light. 18 touchdowns is a little light. So raw numbers, yeah, do need to come up. Just
Yes.
and maybe they'll just ask him to do more. That again, I'm not
Right.
watching game to game, but maybe they'll just put a little bit more on his plate now that he's done it. It would be awesome to see not only that kind of development from him, but that kind of extra trust put on him. Ben, I'm gonna ask you right now, just say 5 names, just say 5 words. Right now on August 13th, rank those 5 players. Nussmeier, Aller, Klubnik, Sellers, and Mendoza.
This is just for the 26th draft, okay? It's not for looking ahead. Right
You've used
now,
your 5 words.
yeah, I'm sorry. Klubnik, Nussmeier, Sellers, Aller, Mendoza, as we sit right now.
Okay. I got Klubnik,
Okay.
Aller,
Okay.
Sellers,
Yes.
Mendoza, Nussmeier.
Okay.
Very different. We're not usually this far apart. This is
Three of
fun.
the
This
guys
is
are in the
good.
same slot, though. We switched to basically you
Klubnik and
saw
Sellers were
outright.
the same.
Yes.
Mendoza's in the bottom two.
Yes.
It really banks on Aller and Nussmeier,
You're
but
down on Garrett. I love
yeah.
Aller, but I'm just not. Man, I need that light to come on, boy. Huh.
Aller's gonna suffer from the like we have higher expectations. So why hasn't it happened? Which like that would be an interesting study. I like to find these where how much if a guy is already at 70% but we're expecting 90, how much do we talk about him being a disappointment versus a guy who we expect 10% and we get him at 50? That was even
Yeah, it
messy to
would
say,
be.
but That'd be
But one thing
interesting.
I keep going back to Aller for is you don't see it statistically either. It's just not there.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
these
that's a
other
big
guys
that
have
is a
this
big thing.
production. He's sitting over here with meager fare. Dang
I'm
it,
gonna,
man. Come on.
I'm
Get
gonna
it done.
blame that goofy Penn State offense.
Yes. Blame the OC.
All right. Real quick, couple more things I want to tell you guys about on Box Score Network. So because CONCACAF this week just came back from a few weeks off, they had a heavy summer, but Dom and Andy have a spirited debate about Leagues Cup. They preview the quarterfinals and they discuss creating an all-time best starting 11 for the U.S. men's national team. So check out because CONCACAF. Shout out Andy being sneaky on this ad read here. He put the Roman numerals in. He just expected that on live on air I would be able to get that right, so I did that. Uh, and now another quick plug. I'm not going to feel bad about this, but me and Ben are also on the YouTube channel. So check out Box Score Network YouTube because Ben and I are doing our top offensive lineman series. First up, left tackle. See who Ben and Simon have. Ben and Simon. See who Ben and I have as our top five left tackles going into the 2025 NFL season. Ben, it's time for the big fish. I intentionally did all the ad reads before getting to this guy so everybody would stick around. That's marketing 101 for everybody.
Yes. Yes.
Arch Manning. I moved him to the bottom of this list because of what Grandpa Arch was putting out there last week. It really does feel like we're just not getting Arch Manning in 2026. The only thing that I'm holding out hope on for him is Todd McShay keeps putting out this little nugget of Arch can't go buy a water at a gas station without taking set 15 selfies
Right.
because he's just in a college town in Texas. He doesn't have big NFL stuff around there protecting him, whatever. And I'm sure, people can get him water at Texas. I'm sure they got that in the NIL budget. But, it'd be easier in a big city. It'd be easier, what teams did we discuss in a New York, in a Pittsburgh, in a whatever to walk down the street and get some. So I pushed Arch Manning down. I don't have any film clips on him. But we are still going to talk about him. If you want in-depth, fun Arch things, Ben and I on YouTube just a few weeks ago did a whole thing of like, will he, won't he, where would he, what team would he be willing to go to declare for? But anyways, here's the background on Arch Manning. Ben will fill us in a little bit and then we'll move on. Archie Manning is 6'4", 216-pound junior out of Texas. 2025 will be his first year starting for the full season after attending Isidore Newman High School in New Orleans, Louisiana. He was a five-star recruit and the first overall player in the nation in the 2023 class. Manning is also obviously the next in line of the Manning family, going back to Arch Manning and the former second overall pick quarterback in 1971, as the grandfather was with the Saints, and his uncles, Peyton and Eli, obviously also NFL quarterbacks. Ben and I mentioned just over on YouTube talking about him, what those scenarios would be, but it does seem unlikely now that Archie will be in the 2026 NFL draft. So, Ben, your thoughts on Manning, the player, but also where you're at these days on if you think he's coming out or not.
As far as coming out, I'm 50-50. I figure the Manning family hasn't made a decision. I figure that's intelligently handling the expectations and all the crazy is really where I feel like. And I feel like they'll make a decision come around Christmas time. It's probably when they'll have to make that decision just after Christmas and between New Year's. I figure they'll sit down and make it, you know. I'm 50-50 on that. I really like this player, even if his name weren't Manning, but it is. I left that into my opinion of him. He's a Manning. It helps. It just does.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say so.
It just does. He looks very polished for a guy his age, which you would expect that. I'm sure he's been to every Manning Academy that's ever been when he was available, you know. So he looks polished. I like that. A lot more polished than some of these other guys we're talking about. The arm strength is not, you can't touch Drew Aller's arm strength or another guy we're going to talk about in a second. But I think it's right there basically with Cade Klubnik. It's there with Lenore Sellers. It's very good arm strength. You're not hurting to be able to throw the football anywhere. And then you get down to the running ability. He's got good running ability. You know, maybe it's been hyped up a little bit too much because most Mannings can't run and he can, but he can run. He can not only pick up first downs, he can hurt you with his legs. Okay. He's not going to, at the NFL level, he's not going to burn defensive backs for 60 yards. Okay. That's not going to happen typically, but he can hurt you with his legs. So the one drawback I had on him was less of a knock on him personally. he played 3 or 4 games against lousy competition, man. I mean, you watch the highlights. Literally, there's one game against another school from Texas, I think, where it's 7-0, 21-0, 35-0, 47-0. It's just one highlight play after another, and it's like, well, let's see him against the nation's best defenses this year. So that's for me, Arch Manning. I really do like him, but we'll see what it looks like this year.
Yeah, the thing that I've seen and that everyone's just talking about is just like this is a Manning passer who's also mobile. And we haven't seen that since Grandpa was in the NFL. So that would be super duper exciting. Um, what would you say? Maybe not even the one, if not even the one thing necessarily for you specifically, but if there was one thing you want to see, what is it? And maybe it's just that better competition. But also, like, do you think there can be one thing inside the lines for the Mannings that Archie could do that would be like, oh, okay, you're just ready, go into the NFL? Or is it just more going to be about like situation and overall, are you ready for the NFL kind of thing?
See, everybody knows where he's going. The Mannings know. It's just a matter of when. So I don't necessarily know that they're going to see him do anything on the field that they haven't already seen him do in practice several times or at the Manning Academy. It does come down to competition and stats. If he's the reason they're beating Ohio State in the opening game of the year because he threw for 300 yards and ran for 60, that's a good sign he's ready to move on up, baby. I mean, if he's the reason they're winning a national title, because they gotta win 3 games now to do that, and get through good competition. He's the reason they're doing that. That's a sign they're ready. And if he's not, if he's just a part of the winning, hey, keep
Yeah.
around for another year.
Yeah. Not just along for the ride and coasting on the Manning name, but yeah, if he's just kind of showing out as the guy, that could certainly be the case. That would be fun to watch. So those are the 6 guys that are really first round buzz guys. And I didn't include Manning in our little ranking there because again, it really doesn't feel like he's coming out at this point. But those are the top 6. Now, Ben, we're gonna talk about 4 more guys where I'm just gonna give background and then I'm gonna let you talk about them. Um, but it's important to note we did this last year. We talked about I think 9 total quarterbacks, and 3 of them were these like, here's just some background. Here, not a lot of info. These are considered day 2, even day 3 guys. 2 of those guys were Cam Ward and Jackson Dart, the only quarterbacks that got taken in the first round of the 2025 NFL draft. So keep that in mind as we say some of these names here. First one up is Sam Levitt. Levitt is a 6'2", 210-pound redshirt sophomore out of Arizona State via Michigan State. Originally from Portland, Oregon, Levitt graduated from Westland High School, where he was a 4-star recruit, second-ranked player in the state of Oregon, and 18th overall quarterback. In his first year at ASU, he was named a starter, had over 2,800 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, and 6 picks. What do you think about Levitt, and what are you looking for this year?
This might be the most fun college quarterback to watch that we've talked about. He is fun to watch. Okay. Really love him. The attitude, the aggressiveness, high, high, high. He's got all of that in spades. Runs very well. A little choppy sometimes, but will hurt you with his feet. So check, check, check. He can make a lot of throws, but he does not have the greatest arm. He just doesn't. Okay, and that's a problem at the NFL
Mhm.
level. Not quite as much at the college level. At the NFL level, that's a problem. You'll see some ducks floating around out there when he's throwing the football, and then other times you'll see really pretty passes. Other times throwing into triple coverage. So he's got a lot of work to do. But this is a guy just attitude wide. He's got enough talent to make you think about him for the draft of, oh, maybe third round. I might could turn this into a guy who we win a lot of games with. That's where he's at.
One I make fun of people who use this caveat, but one old school thought process that I follow sometimes with this stuff, and this really stems from NBA focus for a while, is he changed high school. I'm pretty sure every year he was there. I think he was at one high school his freshman year. It seemed like he might have moved states as a sophomore, and then he went back to his first high school as a junior, and then he went to another high school as a senior. So and then he transfers colleges. And I don't want to be here saying like these transfer portal kids, like they just run from competition. But like, did he run from competition? Now, I actually tried to look this up. I couldn't find any info. It feels like they maybe he moved and then as a sophomore, and then he had the opportunity just to go back to his old school, so he did that. Maybe stayed with an uncle or something like that, and then he got the offer to go to a more prestigious, competitive high school as a senior. And then, it's not rare to transfer your freshman year to a place where you've been for 2 years. So like maybe it's nothing, but that was just my one note I found interesting.
He
Um,
also transferred from Michigan State too.
exactly, exactly. So like now, granted, maybe it was the right decision because obviously Arizona State like had a good season last year and he was with some NFL talent. So like it could just be that, it all worked out. It's not like he had 1 year of success and jumped somewhere else. Like, I don't know if he was on the Miami call list at any point as they called for every potential transfer last year, but here we are. John Mateer. Mateer is a redshirt junior out of Little Elm, Texas, where he was a three-star recruit. He's entering his first year at Oklahoma after 3 total years at Washington State, with 1 year as the starter there. So 1 year of play, and now he's transferring to Oklahoma. Last year, the 6'1", 225-pound quarterback, 6'1", 225, had over 3,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 7 picks for the Cougars. Ben, what do you know? What do you like? What do you think about John Mateer?
Fun to watch. Crazy. Got a little off-field problem going on right now. We won't
Mm.
get into that tonight, so just keep an eye on that. A guy
Oh,
worth
yeah.
thinking about
Mm.
drafting, but probably later. Um, a good runner will definitely hurt you with his feet. Matter of fact, other than maybe Haynes King, you talk about guys that eat up a ton of yards, but he's doing it in chunks, right? 15, 15, 20. Here's a 5 yard. He's not breaking 30s and 40s too often. So he consistently hurts you with his feet. Okay. Has a good arm within about 30 yards, but I didn't see much downfield. So that's always a huge problem for me projecting the NFL level. The only time I ever saw him throw downfield deep, like 40 or 50 yards, guys wide open, right? That's it. Now, within 30 yards, boy, he's got some lasers. He really loves working the right side of the field. He likes to hit the seam hard. He likes to hit the boundary hard. He likes to hit the back shoulder in the goal red zone hard. He's got all that very well. And then over on the left side, from 30 yards out, goal line, back shoulder, he can hit that. So he's got these kind of within range missiles, but nothing really deep that I saw. I also felt a little crazy at times, kind of out of control, like he wasn't consistently game planning. It's just all read and react kind of stuff. So fun guy to watch, probably get drafted, but probably not your franchise future more than likely.
Next up, Nico Iamaleava was a junior quarterback, or is a junior quarterback at UCLA going into 2025. Even passive fans know and recognize the name at this point as the former Tennessee quarterback who, during spring workouts this past spring, was negotiating a new NIL deal at Tennessee before sitting out the practice and the spring game. Tennessee head coach made the decision to move on from Nico after that, and he ended up going to UCLA. On the field, Nico was a five-star recruit in 2023 out of Warren High School in Long Beach Polytech in California, number two overall player and quarterback in the nation behind just Arch Manning. In 1 year starting at Tennessee, he threw for over 2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, and just 5 interceptions. So, Ben, the Nico stuff, I believe you were on the video that's up on Box Score Network reacting to that whole transfer and negotiation debacle. But Nico, the player, and then we don't have to rehash the whole like transferring thing, but just where you think that puts him in terms of like what he kind of has to do this year. Should the draft even be kind of in the purview, or should this be like 1 year reset, 1 year, then next year to really build back up the draft stock for 2027? What do you think's happening with Nico?
Nobody in college football has a bigger arm than Nico, including Drew Aller. He has an arm that rivals Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. That arm strength cannon is there. My gosh, is it there in spades? It is huge. Trouble is, he's wildly inaccurate downfield. I think he completes, we're talking about on the 40 and 50-yard stuff, whereas Cade Klubnik completes probably 80 to 90% of his stuff down there. Nico is completing like 1 out of 10. It is awful, horrible, dreadful. He doesn't even give his receivers a chance half the time when we're talking about these deep throws. So he's got this huge cannon that's wildly inaccurate at those deep depth levels. I think he just hasn't worked on it very much. I think he hasn't worked with his receivers very much. I don't think he spent a lot of time in practice during the offseason on it very much. I think he just needs to get his butt on the practice field and get to work. Like the cannon is there. The reason I'm not worried about the accuracy is because once you get back within range, 20, 30 yards, It's not always accurate, but there's lots of nice, accurate passes sometimes to receivers on the move, and he keeps them on the move. Not always. Again, he's still young, but there's lots of accurate passes within range, right? So I think he just hasn't practiced the deep ball enough, to me, is what it looks like. Not typically going to beat you with his feet because he's very tall and long. It's kind of like watching a
Hmm.
giraffe unfold.
Hmm.
But if he does get a chance to turn the corner on you, he's got these long strides. He can eat up huge chunks very quickly. So don't let him get vertical on you. He will eat up 20 yards in 3 steps. It's kind of like watching Giannis over in basketball, 3 steps from
Hmm.
midcourt to the rim. He can do that. So that's there. He does seem to work well within game, and because of the height, he's 6'4", 6'5". He can see everything. Now he's taller than
Hmm.
that. What, 6'6", I think. Yeah. He can see everything. You talk about seeing downhill like a pitcher on a mound. He can see
Yeah.
everything. He can see over every single offensive lineman. There is nothing in the middle of the field he can't see. Still young, still inconsistent, still a lot of games where he just doesn't produce much. So he really needs to step that up. And then you get back to the whole transfer portal thing. Everybody's got that in their head, but as soon as he steps on the field and produces, nobody will remember that. So what he needs to do, he's over there playing in Los Angeles. He needs to quit worrying about LA or the NFL or transfer. He needs to get his butt serious about football and dial it in. And if he does that, then we can start talking about draft.
Yeah. All right, last guy up is a familiar name. It's a guy we led the show with last year, and it's Carson Beck. Beck enters his sixth year of college football in 2025 after transferring to the University of Miami. He spent 5 total years at Georgia and was the starter for 2 of those seasons. In those 2 seasons, he threw for over 7,300 yards, 52 touchdowns, and 18 interceptions. Coming out of Mandarin High School in Jacksonville, Florida, Beck was a 4-star recruit. He entered the 2024 college football season as a projected top 10 draft pick, but turnovers and erratic play plummeted his draft stock. Despite good overall numbers and team success, he is now at Miami trying to recoup that draft value. Ben, I want to read you a couple things here. My scouting reports at this time last year, literally, I wrote these notes, or we had this podcast on August 14th last year. It was when we recorded. So just a day, the same day that this episode is coming out, 1 year later. Carson Beck, live arm, throws with drive. Good athlete, was looking to extend, create plays. He and Sanders, Shadur, get the same result, accurate passes, but go about it differently. Drives the ball well all over the field. Not a pretty ball, but he gets it to where he needs to go. Maneuvers and stands well in the pocket. This is the key one. Will and can take off when necessary. Uses the pocket well. And accurate on cover two hole shots. And then
Yep.
just 4 months later, when we check back in on quarterbacks, gets pretty easily spooked in the pocket, causing bad footwork. Decision making is erratic, but I think part of that is the teammates around him. Some real good arm talent and the mobility is still showing up, but clean or a messy pocket has problem with footwork, which creates issues with accuracy. So somewhere in those 4 months, because that first scouting report came from his 2023 film, first year as a starter, second year as a starter in 2024, somewhere in those 4 months, he just spooked himself. I don't. You can fill in these gaps for me. I don't know if it's the yips. I don't know. I'm thinking back. They had a couple offensive line drafted, right? Amarius Mims was no longer on that line, but they still had Tate Ratliff, Dylan Fairchild, Cedric Van Pran Green. No, no, he was gone, but Logan Wilson was. So they had interior that are all in the NFL right now. Their left tackle Ernest Green was projected to go to the draft last year. He's back in college, so like was he just really bad last year? Where even though we thought he was maybe a mid-round pick going into last season, um, and Amarius Mims didn't even finish a lot of games in 2023, so like it wasn't just that. But what happened to Carson Beck? Why is he now like getting the Quinn Ewers treatment of like maybe he'll get drafted when we thought he was going to be a first round pick last season? Where are you at on Beck?
That's a beautiful setup there on Beck. That's perfect. Word for word, perfect. I wouldn't change a thing you just said. I thought three things happened to Beck last year before I get into my analysis of him real quick. Number one, the offensive line just wasn't as consistent. The talent's there, but it was nowhere near as consistent as we see these Georgia offensive lines. You could see it against some of the bigger teams, better teams. It just wasn't as consistent. So the talent was there, physical aspect was there. just not that consistent. So that was a big problem for Carson for sure. That's why you start to see him kind of get shaken, rattled, spooked, right? The second thing was the wide receivers just weren't as good as what we typically see Georgia wide receivers. We usually think of the fast physical guys. They didn't have as much of that last year. They just didn't. The George Pickens types. Matter of
Hmm.
fact, they kind of went out in the transfer portal this year and got a couple of guys. Zachariah Branch from SoCal being one of those guys. Okay, so that was a problem. And then the asking him to it's always asking him to manage expectations and now take complete control of the team and open up the offense as himself last year was different than, oh, hey, I'm a really good guy on a really good team. I'm really talented. I'm throwing darts all over the field now. Last year they asked him to step up. They asked him to make more plays on his own. They asked him to spread out to expand the offense. That's the word I'm looking for. Expand the offense, right? Expand the playbook of what he's capable of doing. He wasn't able to handle that either. That's a concern, right? So then that led to all the crazy stuff that we saw last year. Now, as far as Beck goes, what does he do well? What does he check? All the things you already mentioned at the outset. Got the big arm. Has not quite a Nico arm, an Allen arm, or Mahomes arm, but boy, he has no problem. There are some plays you'll see him stand still and just click
Hmm.
wrist throw 50, 60 yards. There are some plays you'll see him on his back foot, stepping backwards and just throw a dart, 40 yards. Arm strength is not a problem for him. And there are times where he's very accurate, but it does seem like the decision making is a real problem. And when the pocket breaks down, it's a real problem. And leadership slash people wanting to play with you seems to be a bit of a problem too. So you got all three of those things there kicking in, and he'll have a productive season at Miami, but we need to see it, look more like the 23 stuff than the 24 stuff.
It's gonna be interesting, man. It's gonna be interesting. To me, it's gonna be that pocket stuff. Was 2023 just no pressure on him, and even just mentally, like he just walked in as first year starter versus, like you said, year two, all eyes on me. Just how is that pocket gonna be handled? Because everything else I think is there,
Yeah.
and it just stems from that comfortability in the pocket. Now, I don't know if his offensive line's going to be any better at Miami than it was at Georgia, but I also don't know if his pass rush is going to be quite as significant as it was playing in the SEC. So like, there's a give and take there. We'll see what happens. Um, I think do you think honestly, do you think he can work his way back into being even a first round pick quarterback, or is he just like fighting to go back to his day two value that he had coming out of 2023? Because remember, coming in 2023, we were like, man, if he comes out now, like he's your classic second rounder, right? He's your classic Tyler Shuck, Derek Carr,
Yeah.
kind of guy. And then he's like, I'll risk it for a biscuit 2024, try to be the first overall pick. And
Yeah.
now he's at Miami.
I think he's more talented than those guys. I think he's more talented than some of the guys we talked about tonight, but it does worry me when I know he's on a talented team at Georgia, even though I know the offensive line wasn't as good, the wide receiver core wasn't as good, still they have talented people there.
Yeah.
It does worry me a lot when he's checking out of Georgia and going to Miami. Nobody ever leaves Georgia when they're a starter at Georgia unless
It,
they're
it, it was not
asked
his
to go.
decision to go to leave Georgia. That is for sure.
So that's a real problem. And I
Yeah.
don't know, it's going to take a lot for me as an NFL franchise to want to pull him in the first round.
Yeah. Because whatever he does this year, the asterisk will be now in the ACC. So
And
that's
they
going to
do
be
have a
different.
very good offensive line. They've got at
Hmm.
least two guys, one guy who may be drafted in the top five overall,
Heck
and
yeah.
they've got a very good offensive line there in Miami. So,
So at this point, it feels like he's just trying to get back to that day two draft status, and that's probably that might be better for him, anyways. All right. Over to a couple big picture things. Overall, I want you to tell me how you feel about this quarterback draft class as of right now on August 13th. And I want you to compare it to two different things. I want you to compare it to how you felt about last year's draft class at this time.
yeah,
And I want you to compare to how you felt about last year's draft class in April, let's say right before the draft.
yeah. I like this year's class a lot better. So, first of all, how did I feel about last year's class? There were two guys that I was into last year. It was Sanders and Beck. back way, when we were doing this, those were the
Hmm.
two guys.
Hmm.
But those are really the only two guys I see that are legit first round competitive guys. Well, of course, we know Cam Ward and Jackson Dart moved up. Dart was very late, but really you're looking at two guys in the draft. It was Cam Ward and Jackson Dart, So
Right.
basically, those two guys replaced the two. So by the time you get to draft time, even though I was still high on Sanders, not Jackson Dart, high on Cam Ward, you just had those two guys replaced. So still, it was like a two quarterback draft, basically. And one of those
Yep.
was even late first round. Not thrilled with that class at any point. Liked it, wasn't thrilled with it. I feel a lot better about this group, man. We've talked about, I think we've talked about four or five guys that potentially I would look at in the first round this year. Gonna have to wait and see how they
Hmm.
play. But everybody from Drew Aller to definitely an Arch Manning, and if he were to come out, which maybe he doesn't, Norris Sellers. I'm okay with Nussmeier, even though I'm sometimes okay with Nussmeier. Sometimes I see exactly what you're saying because I didn't like Nussmeier halfway through last season anyway. I had to watch the tape to like him. We talked about who else? Cade Klubnik for me is a first rounder at the moment. So that's five or six guys really that if they came out, I'd be interested in them in the first round. So I think it's a much deeper draft.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm looking back at the notes from when we did this pod at this time last year, and it was Shadur and it was Beck at the top. And we liked both those guys then. We recognized the ceilings. But then
Yeah,
we very quickly got to Quinn Ewers, who I was like, what we're talking about this guy right now? And Jalen Milrow, who I liked, but very clearly like we knew what he was for the NFL, right? So even that was we're excited, but not top five pick excited. We talked about Connor Wigman at this time last year. We talked about Aller at this time last year, and then Dart and Ward and DJ Ungale. We talked; those were our very shallow conversation guys.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, just going back and remember those names. Yeah, didn't feel great about it. Definitely feel better here. I like Klubnik. I obviously like Aller. We mentioned a couple guys there, even in the shallow portion where it's like the talent is good. We'll just see what happens. I like Sellers. Um, I see what people like with the Mendoza and the Nussmeier even.
yeah.
So it's not. I will say as somebody that wasn't watching college and everyone was saying all through 2025, oh, the 26 class is going to be great. I don't see a lot of home runs here.
Right,
Like Aller is the guy for me, obviously, that it would be like this the guy I would be like itching to take first overall if those stipulations happen like you talked about. But even Klubnik is kind of just like, yeah, I can get behind that. That's fine. It's not quite the Kenny Pickett 2022 where it's like, oh my God, someone's gonna take this guy in the first round,
right.
but it's not quite the like tanking for Klubnik kind of deal. Club in for Klubnik, whatever the messaging will be. Um, So I feel better, but I'm not in the like home run stratosphere that this isn't how I felt in 2022 when I saw Kenny Pickett and Desmond Ritter, and I was like, no, I just want CJ Stroud in 2023. I'm not all the way there. Um,
Yeah, agreed. There's five or six guys who by the end of this year they're going to have not one but two seasons of production. That's
yeah,
important back to back. They have several of them have the height, several of them have the arm, several of them have a set of legs to go with it. So they check a lot more boxes, and there's more of those kind of guys that we're seeing here.
certainly. I have one last thing I want to do tonight, Ben, and it's a current draft theory that's being kicked around that I was ready to come on here and like actually factor into some of my thought process going into the 2026 draft, and I'm here to debunk that for everybody. You remember the old Bill Parcells rules for drafting quarterbacks?
Yes, some of them.
One of them was it 30 wins or 20, 21 wins, something like that. It was,
Okay.
and it was basically like graduate college was one. I think 21 wins. I think that's the number that's sticking out. But essentially like games played and experience really matter, right? We've certainly gone away from that in the last decade and a half, I would say. But because of the Brock Purdy's, because of the Anthony Richardsons, because of the Bo Nixes, obviously, different ends of the spectrum on those three players, we're starting to be like, maybe this whole experience thing is back, right? Maybe we need to really. hone back in on this. Maybe lack of games played is an issue. Maybe number of games played is a positive. Jaden Daniels, you know, and you're like, okay, let's dig into this. Let's think about this a little bit here. From 2015 till 2023, I just grabbed everybody that was drafted in the first 2 rounds, every quarterback, and I sorted them by games played. Bo Nix is at the top of the list. 61 games played. Obviously had a good rookie year. Jalen Hurts, 56 games played. That's pretty good. He's MVP finalist, like Super Bowl MVP. That's good. Jaden Daniels, Offensive Rookie of the Year, 55 games played. That's awesome.
Yes.
Kenny Pickett, 52 games played. Cody Kessler, 51. Drew Lock, 50. Desmond Ritter, 50. Baker Mayfield, 48. It comes back up. Cool. That's good. Um, Justin Herbert's up there. 44. Mason Rudolph, 42. Mason Rudolph, we're kind of getting on the line there of like what kind of chance he actually had, how long ago was all that sort of thing. Let me
Right.
go down to the bottom of this list. First or second round picks that were drafted, games played. Let's go to the bottom of the list here. Anthony Richardson, yeah, 24 games played. That didn't go great. Davis Mills, 14 games played. That that showed. Now late second round pick, early third round. I think I might have done first 3 rounds. Um, but here's a little guy, Josh Allen, 27 games. He's one, two, three, four, five, six, seventh from the bottom here. Worked out okay for that guy. He's doing all right. Kyler Murray, 29 games played.
Yeah.
Worked out okay for him. You heard Patrick Mahomes, Ben?
A little, yeah.
32 games played in college. Um, he's doing okay. He's doing all right. And then I was like, okay, let me reframe my thinking, right? Because this might be the new version of it, where like first 3 rounds, those are the uber talented guys. Those are the guys you're going to give more of a chance to. You're going to try to set them up better for success. Let's look for the outliers on day three. If I'm going to take a swing on a guy day three, a la
Yeah.
Brock Purdy, let me get a guy who's played a lot of games. So then I did the same thing. 2015 and now, day three, rounds 4 through 7, sort by games played in college. Um, Brock Purdy, 10th most games played under these circumstances. 48 games played. That's a lot. He's obviously done really well. Good for him. Dak Prescott, 8th most games played at 49. That's really good. Um, the guy with the 4th most games played, 50 games played in college. Dorian Thompson Robinson. Now, he's never been a full-time starter, but he's got a number of games starting for Kevin Stefanski, and it has never looked good, not even for a moment. Okay, let's go to the bottom of this list. Who are some day three guys that don't have a lot of starts under their belts? Um, let's see. Who's the one I wanted to highlight? Gardner Minshew, 30 games played. That's worked out for a day three pick. His former teammate. Um, where is he at? Aiden O'Connell is over here with 33 games played. That's worked out okay for a day three pick. Let's see. Shedeur Sanders, obviously. We'll see what happens there. Bailey Zappi had a little run, 14 games, but that was, he had a bunch of games that were FB or FCS before that, so it's not counting those. Um, Basically, Ben, all I'm trying to tell you is games played don't matter. Forget about it. Just get that out of your head. Um, Talent first, film first, person first, situation first, both college situation and where you're going to put them in the NFL. I don't care that Anthony Richardson started, what did I say it was? 24 games in college.
I didn't even think it was that many, but yeah, it wasn't
I know
much.
I didn't either. And that's just games played. So maybe that first year, maybe he had some cleanup work or something like that.
Right.
Um, I don't care that Josh Allen played 27 games. Compare what those two guys had,
No.
what situations they were put into. Because Josh Allen was put into a bad situation his rookie year, and it looked bad.
Yeah.
Did they jerk him out after he made a bad play, or like he didn't get hurt either? So like there's a factor there. It's about situation. It's about what kind of situation you put these guys in. Oh, Drake May is way down there. Look at that, 30 games for Drake May. You think the Patriots are regretting that selection right now? Um, it can happen on any end of the spectrum. It can be a day three guy with a lot of games played, no games played. It could be a first 2 days guy with a lot of games played or no games played. It's about the talent and the situation you put them in that's going to dictate what these guys are. So, yes, it can be a factor. And if you have a very complex offense, or you're a team that is going to be changing offenses, like you're like, this coach ain't here for long, or we're going to draft a quarterback that can handle it. And it's like, well, he played 5 years and for three coordinators in that time. So like that's at least a box we can check. But I don't think we're switching over anytime soon back to Bill Parcells' old theory of, has to be a 3 or 4 year starter, win so many games, do this sort. I I don't think we're going all the way back to that.
Yeah, I was wondering what you were going to hit me up with tonight and whether or not I would agree with it, but I completely agree. I tend to not get too big on any theories at all, to be honest. I mean, things come and go, things cycle through. But you're right. There doesn't seem to be any real correlation to this game's played thing. I know you can point to guys, but some of those guys on the list that played a lot of games, the light never came on in college, and it didn't come on in the pros. Bo Nix, it finally came on in year 6 of college. You can see it in Oregon.
Yep.
And even still, I don't think he's a great NFL quarterback. I think he's in a great place, and he's functioning within that. You mentioned on the higher end, Jaden Daniels. He looked lousy at Arizona State when he was like a sophomore, and all of a sudden,
Hmm.
boom, just exploded in his final Heisman season. That was a big deal. He looked so different from those 2 years. It's 3 years really. And there was another guy you mentioned, but I'm just not huge on the games played thing in any way. I totally agree with what you're saying. It's, do I like what I see? Do I like the film? I like production myself, even if it's just 1 year. I at least like to see that he can produce something.
Hmm.
That's important. I don't want to see 150, 200 yards a game. I need to know that he can produce. That's important. You mentioned the person. Sometimes, these guys look good on the field and you get them off the field and it's like, this isn't going to work out with our team.
Yep.
So those are the things I tend more toward. And then the talent. Do I like the talent that I'm seeing? Is there enough arm strength here? Is there a reasonable amount of accuracy I'm seeing? Those are the things I tend for.
All right. That is one of many conversations that Ben and I will be having over the course of the next 8 months when it
Yeah.
comes to the 2026 NFL draft. We will do one of these a month. If you're new to this show, this is the Simon Friends podcast. We have our monthly co-host come on every 4 weeks. Ben is going to be talking to us about the draft every single month. Each month, we're going to do this show for every position group. We'll hit O line next. We'll do the 7-on-7 type guys, receivers, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends. We'll switch over to the defense, do front seven. We'll do DBs. We'll hit everybody in this form or fashion, leading you up to the draft process, and then we'll dive deep into the NFL draft. When the regular season is done, I'm going to try to convince Ben once again to come on twice a month so we can hit the draft hard from the team side. But we're going to get you guys familiar with the players. We're going to get you familiar with the draft process and what we like, what we think about. We'll have these fun little conversations mixed in with some theories and some studies that we do in the meantime as well. But check out everything on Box Score Network. If you're here watching on YouTube for the first time, thank you so much. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe over at Box Score Network as well, where you'll see additional content. But if you're an audio A1 Day One listener, we appreciate you as always. Thank you to Ben for being here as an A1 Day One co-host. And thank you all so much. We'll talk to you next time. Have fun and be safe out there.